Today, we're looking off into the future at Generation 10 and the 30th year anniversary of Pokemon. What is the Pokemon Company plotting? Today, we're joined by Charlie Merriman, the host of Chazingdra Chats. This man is an official VGC caster for the Pokemon Company International, and we got the chance to sit down with him to break down the real-time combat of Legends ZA, the potential offerings for Pokemon Champions, what this all means for Generation 10, and the future of Pokemon. Let's find out. Well, thank you for being here, and can you tell the audience who you are, what you do, and maybe a little bit why you're on the podcast today?
Absolutely, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Merriman. I am a host and commentator for the Pokemon Video Game Championship Series. Also a content creator. I have a background as an actor and writer. I went to drama school and a comedian. And I like to, therefore, use that training to help to bring the casting that I do to life. As well as you mentioned, the podcast I do, Chazingdra Chats. It's getting to know the life stories and 6 Dream Team Pokemon of people in the community. Because we see these people so often, like in Hidden Power podcasts, we see these faces so often, but we don't get to know actually the people behind them and what's brought them to this point. And that's very much my bag. I love to talk to people. I love doing the interviews during the competitive events as well, getting to know the trainers a little bit better. So yeah, I launched my channel coming up to exactly a year ago. It was mid-April last year. So I'm still in that stage of like throwing paint at the wall and seeing what sticks. But I've been enjoying doing the podcast. I'm working on an EOIC video right now, which is like the event from a caster's perspective, which I hope is going to be like a bit of a unique take on that.
I think it is, absolutely. That's like half the reason why we wanted to have you on today, because you are a caster. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm just excited that you're here because you have such a unique perspective. You work with the Pokemon Company. That's awesome. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically the Pokemon Company International, Pokemon Company handles Asia, but yeah, absolutely. And it's been a really wild ride. It was really only over the pandemic that I discovered the competitive side of things properly.
Wow.
And as soon as I knew that casting was a thing, I just thought, well, this combines lots of things that I'm interested in. And I was just lucky that Worlds was in London that year, so I went as a spectator and just happened to sort of talk to the right people, and now here I am casting. It's been, that's been a 3-year, not even 3-year journey, and so sometimes life has a way of just like opening doors for you, and sometimes when it goes so smoothly, you just feel like, well, I think I better lean into this because it feels like a sign that I should just, follow this train and see what happens,
Oh no, I love that so much. No, that's so great. That's so great. Let's listen. Our audience is jazzed by Pokemon Legends ZA. We're all very excited. I think. I want to say we're all excited. I think we all are excited. Some of the excitement is positive. Some of it is a little bit apprehension. I think the game is taking us into a new place, a new era for the franchise, which is exciting. Period. Right? Whether it's positive or negative. But I do think today it would be fun to talk. And I want to hear your thoughts on Legends ZA, but I do think today would be a lot of fun to also dive into Pokemon Champions a little bit. I think that's something that we haven't talked about, maybe not as much, and maybe that's because we don't know as much about it. But I'd love, let's start with Legends ZA. I guess the Pokemon Day presents. Sure. I don't know. Yeah, with Legends ZA, like, what do you, what is left an impression for you?
I think the first thing to say on that front is by the time it comes out, it will probably be 3 years since we've had a Pokemon game released. Yeah. So to a certain extent, it feels like they could have released anything. It would have been like, oh, yes. Let's go, sort of thing. Yeah, but ZA does look really exciting. What's interesting to me is that really the main thing I loved about Pokemon Legends Arceus is that it was set in the past. I thought that was such a unique perspective. ZA, of course, seems like it's not going to be set in the past at all. Another thing I loved about Legends Arceus was this whole thing of where actually, because it was set in the past, the Pokemon attack you rather than your Pokemon. And part of me is slightly disappointed that it seems like that's not going to be the case in ZA. Those two things are taken away, and therefore, in that sense, it's more like a traditional Pokemon game to a certain extent.
Sure. Yeah, that's an interesting take.
Yeah. Having said that, the gameplay looks amazing. Right down to the very specific details of, like, I don't know if you guys recall from the trailer, but you catch a Pokemon, and it like bounces 3 times, like does a boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, and then it's sort of sealed. I just thought that was really neat.
Yeah,
it's all about those tiny details. I think the choice of first partners, no one could have predicted 2 Generation 2 and 1 Generation 5, and it makes me wonder if, because we've already had Cyndaquil covered by Legends Arceus, and now we have Chikorita and Totodile covered by ZA. That to me teases some kind of Johto love that's coming out soon. I mean, that might just be wishful thinking, because Generation 2 is my favorite of them all, and Johto is my favorite region.
I can tell looking behind you.
Exactly.
Let's go. I
assume the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wait, so are you suggest? So this is kind of cool because like it's easy to make certain connections, but then it's so you're thinking that the starters in this game might suggest at like a future Johto remake, perhaps. Is that what you're thinking?
Whether it's a remake or just some kind of Johto-based game, because when you think about it, Legends Arceus, we had Gen 2 Cyndaquil, Gen 5 Oshawott, Gen 7 Rowlet. That we could have had, say, Gen 2 Chikorita, Gen 5 Tepig. Gen 7 was right there, Gen 8 was right there, but no, they decided to go with 2 Generation 2 first partners. Yeah. It just seems like it could have fit so neatly into the mold if we'd had Chikorita, well, it couldn't have been Chikorita, it would have been Totodile, Tepig, and... so Chikorita, Tepig, and Poplio. There we go.
Sure.
But no, they made that slight change, which seems really interesting to me. Or maybe it's just a case of like Gen 7 aside.
Yeah.
You could also have had Gen 8, Gen 9 probably a bit recent, but
no, I love this.
Keeping the Gen 8 and Gen 9 first partners sort of sacrosanct. They're a bit too new, so they're keeping them separate for now. I don't know. Yeah. But it got my cogs whirring for sure.
I love that because I think we've all been scoring a little bit. Like we all love Johto, or at least Soul and I love Johto. So
I like Johto.
Yeah, I know you like it. You don't.
You don't love it.
That's like our starting generation. So I think we just
like this.
Like I've let go of the dream. I'm like, listen, I'm done. I'm out of the game of predicting a new.
Right.
Like I can't after ZA. I'm like I can't predict anything. So to hear you
like
have confidence in that makes me happy.
It feels like they've been teasing it for so long too, because like I remember everybody, just like how now you're looking at the starters and saying, okay, 2 Gen 2, they've gotten the, they filled all the Gen 2 now. Could that maybe present something down the line? Then also like I remember when Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out, we had the like there was a lot of stuff that kind of set up like the Johto stuff, like the admin from Team Rocket in the Johto games was present in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, even though he wasn't present in the original Red, Blue, Yellow. And so, like, it does kind of feel like they're constantly going, like, there might be a Johto game soon. And so we're all, like, latching onto it, like, Johto game? And then it doesn't happen.
Well, I don't know if you remember, there was a Pokemon Presents, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like, oh my god, this is it. This is the Let's Go Johto announcement. Because the camera, like, pans up on the top of Mount Silver, you see Red there, throwing a Pokeball up and down, and Pikachu's there. And I'm like, my year is made. And then I think it was Pokemon Masters EX or something like that. Yeah. And hopes were dashed. But
we did a similar thing with Sleep. When they announced the legendary beast for Sleep. I remember us kind of doing a similar thing because it's an animatic trailer, and so you're like, well, that's Raikou, Suicune, and Entei. This is Johto, and then it's Pokemon Sleep.
I think that was all the same presents, actually.
Was it?
That was. Oh, wow. I think that was the Legends ZA one where it started with like Johto stuff and just was Johto stuff throughout the whole entire
all
thing.
throughout it. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like, oh, Legends ZA. I'm like, okay. Kalos. I think it has to do with Johto being like years and years since we've been there. I think that's more than what we're just like yearning for it.
If you want to support, if you want your name to be read, $5 gets you access to so much. Not only are you going to get access to the bonus episode, which is going to be on Patreon or on YouTube, but you're also going to get access to every other exclusive piece of content that we put out. There's probably like 100 hours of us.
That library is getting big.
It's getting so big. There's gameplay VODs, there's live stream VODs, there's exclusive interviews, exclusive conversations.
Soulate an octopus.
That's what is our first episode? I think second episode.
Such an old one, but
yeah.
And you also get access to the Discord, and in the secret Discord, this is like the covenant, the secret Discord. You get into the secret Discord. There's over 200 trainers, exclusive members in that Discord. There's other creators in the Discord. Toby and Loxton are in that Discord, for example. But you in the Discord is how you that's how you can, I guess, Lumi, you kind of run the Discord a little bit more than me, but in the Discord you get access to the Battle League. You also can join in on the live call-in show that we're actually doing, but you also get 10% off merch at our merch store. So that was a little bit long-winded, but I'm excited. Thank you for your support. And I think what we're all thinking about, right, and one of the big questions we have really stems from the fact that this new Pokemon Presents introduced a new type of gameplay style in the solo arena, right? The solo games, Pokemon Legends ZA. That's now an action-based Pokemon experience. Yeah. But you also have this new thing, Pokemon Champions, being propped up as seemingly the solution, or I guess where VGC might be held in the future. And I guess what I'm thinking is, will Pokemon Champions be the format for future, official Pokemon tournaments? Will Worlds be played on Pokemon Champions? And then it's like, what is the purpose of Generation 10? I guess I'm just wondering, Charlie, like, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah.
Would they split and do both? I think that's another option too.
Very true, yeah.
Right, like, I mean, there used to be Pokken with the action base, so I mean,
Yeah, true. So, to my mind, Pokemon, the way battling works is iconic at this point. I don't think, especially not for the 30th anniversary, I really don't think they would change the way the World Championships and other tournaments work. In my opinion, Pokemon Legends Arceus, we had the strong style, agile style. I personally wasn't the biggest fan of that. You'd have times when your opponent's Pokemon would like act 5 times in a row, and you're there going like, "Can I do my move now, or are you just gonna knock me out?"
That's true.
I like that they're trying to keep things fresh, and in terms of the ZA battle style that they've teased, almost a bit more like Pokemon Go. Almost, what's quite cool is that it's more real time. It's a bit more realistic as to how Pokemon battles in the anime, say, work. You're running around and you have to respond in the moment to how the battles are going. But unless it's, phenomenally popular, in my mind, just like with Legends Arceus, it's going to stay confined to that game. Maybe in Generation 10, we'll have like battle modes where you can do the strong style, agile style stuff, or you could do the ZA style stuff. To my mind, it's going to stay confined to that game. In terms of Worlds 2026, yeah, I think it will still be the VGC that we know and love. Part of me wonders, I just think in the 30th anniversary, would it not be so cool to have the World Championships that year be in the Generation 10 games? Part of me does wonder whether Generation 10 could come earlier in the year, maybe even dropping on Pokemon Day next year. I don't know. But if not, I do think they still have a get around in that my suspicion would be, if that's not the case, is we're still in Scarlet and Violet, but there's compatibility with ZA, so you can use Pokemon from ZA and Scarlet and Violet. And a bit like Regulation Set D from 2023, that would be the format. Scarlet and Violet for Worlds 2026 as the last one, but you can use Pokemon from Legends ZA in that. Is what I would guess, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's something that I think like kind of has had me confused. One of our good friends is I'm blanking on his last name, but Scott Scoot Easy on YouTube. Okay. He's a player in Australia. Like he plays, pretty much any tournament that happens in Australia he goes to. And that's something that like he's been talking to me about. He's like, dude, I don't know, like, because it looks like, I don't think this is confirmed, but it looks like potentially the World's regulation this year might be the 2 restricted format just by the pattern. And so he's like, but if they do that this year, like, what are they doing next year?
Yeah. And so that's what kind of leads me to believe that. My friend Lee Provost, who's another caster, you might have seen us both casting EUIC this season. Also Osiris VGC on YouTube. He's a big creator around like tips and tricks how to get the most out of the games, doing the Terror Raid battles and stuff. He had this idea, because they've been doing these mythical drops, shiny mythicals for completing certain home dexes. What if the next competitive format is like Regulation ZG, so 1 restricted, but instead that 1 restricted is 1 mythical, because these mythicals are now easier to obtain, and we rarely see mythicals in competitive Pokemon. I think the sort of bar on that up to this point has been just how difficult it could be to get these mythicals. But and it's still, in my mind, it feels like completing home dexes just to get access to a mythical that you could use in competitive might still be a bit of a high bar. But it's an interesting thing to think about. And I think personally, coming out of Worlds this year, I think rather that, people are seeing it as potentially a bit of a graveyard shift for the next 12 months. Well, where does competitive go? It could be really tired and tedious. In my mind, it could be a real opportunity for them to have so much fun with it. Like, wouldn't it be amazing to have a competitive format where you can only use first forms of Pokemon that can evolve? Things like that.
Yeah.
Just testing out these Pokemon competitively that we never get to see. A Fuecoco instead of a Skellige. Unfortunately, I still think Litten would be everywhere instead of Incineroar, but we count our losses. But things like that, it could really, really freshen things up.
Yeah, that's a fun thought. I do like that idea a lot. I think that's something I've always enjoyed is, every month or couple of months they do those global challenges where you can it's a chance to get the championship points from your own home. And every once in a while they do, instead of those, some kind of crazy rule set one. The one I always think about is they did a Halloween one once where it's you can use spooky Pokemon, ghost types and dark types and Weezing and Muck. I love that. So that is a fun idea to make that an actual format in these tournaments. That would be so fun.
Yeah, kind of themes. That sounds like a fun. It's fun for a watcher. So I don't play, but I love to just watch, and that would be even more entertaining because anything that mixes up the old formula or the regular meta, whatever you want to call it, is it's exciting.
And allows things to get some time in the spotlight. Like we were talking about off air, Chazingdra, you just did a playthrough with Ledian and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Imagine we get a format where Ledian's just able to go in there and kick some butt,
Exactly. Yeah. I soloed the game, beat Cynthia last night, and that Cynthia music always hits home, doesn't it? But anyway, or a format. I don't know how successful this would be, but a format where it's essentially gym leader team, so you can only use Pokemon of one type on your team.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're a grass type, for example, and you go up against fire type, that's tricky. But then it's up to you to balance out. Maybe have a Scovillain on your team to balance out the weakness and things like that.
Ludicolo, have a rain team. Yeah.
And you'd still have Terrastol to so you kind of get a one-mon switch on it. So this is the perfect generation to kind of play around with that idea too.
I do like that a lot. I think all these two new game releases have really just got me thinking and kind of yearning for singles, a competitive singles format. Because I think most players, when they get into competitive battling, it is singles. You're playing against your buddies. You're playing against your friends. The entire game, right? You fought Cynthia in a singles format.
Yeah.
And I know the focus of these games are not necessarily singles. I guess Legends EA is, but I guess I just wonder about what the future of VGC is, if there is a pathway or a potential or a desire even by Pokemon and everyone to maybe you have your doubles, your standard VGC format. Maybe there's a singles. Maybe there's this action version that is carried out into these future Legends games. I don't know if there's even a desire or what, but I personally am not that interested in VGC, and it's fun to watch, but my connection, I feel like I spent 10, 15 years playing competitively on the playground or online, right, doing singles. I'd link up with my friends in college, and we just play singles matches. So I feel, and there's also all these great YouTubers who do, they put out singles content. So that's something that I kind of harp on. I know that's a little bit different from what we're talking about, but I think Champions could potentially open that up, right, by creating these separate formats.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think I would be surprised if we didn't see some kind of singles option within Champions. Something I've wanted to happen for a long time, and I hope that maybe the Indigo Disc DLC was a teaser for this, where the battles are only doubles. It would be amazing. I don't know how practical it would be, but in Generation 10, say, at the beginning of the game, almost like selecting easy, medium, or hard, you select if you want to do singles or doubles battles. Or there's some way of sliding that scale. I don't know, maybe doing only one or the other would be a bit much, but some way of opting in for more doubles battles sort of thing. So, and that would also, everyone knows that people our age play Pokemon, people way beyond the age of children play Pokemon. And so to be able to cater that audience a bit more as well would be really cool.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mentioned in Scoot Easy again. I remember how excited he was when like it was kind of, I think, revealed from like reviews of the game that like pretty much all the battles in Indigo Disc were double battles. And like they were even, not only were they double battles, but they were pretty for Pokemon. They were like difficult. Like you did have trainers like actually using like competitive items and kind of actual like double strategies, not just throwing two mons out and clicking moves. You know, so that was interesting.
What was great as well is that it wasn't just those trainers in the game had Incineroar and Rillaboom. It was the Pokemon that we never see in competitive anyway, still using these strategies.
Sure.
Just how viable, well, maybe viable is too strong, but just the creativity and fun you can have with the Pokemon we don't tend to see as well.
And it's a nice way to bridge the gap. Like, it's a nice way to get someone like you, Dusty, who, you know, doesn't play VGC. Like, if you were battling, you know, Wolf Glick in your Blueberry Academy playthrough, you probably will rage quit, you know, but because you don't have the experience to take on Wolf. I mean, but this is a way to bridge that gap, like kind of teach you the mechanics of VGC without throwing you into the deep end before you know how to swim, you know?
Yeah. Isn't it kind of crazy that like Wolf Glick is literally he's in the Gen 5 games?
Oh yeah, because the Pokemon World Tournament, you can like they allowed you to download the like top 4, top 8, and do a tournament with the top 4, top 8, and the Pokemon World Tournament.
I always think of that, and I'm like, this man's figured it out.
Is like
he's done everything. He's in
the game.
Yeah, that's so cool. Charlie, maybe you'll be in a Pokemon game one day.
Hey, you know, we can but dream. I think the thing with me is that I like, as I said, I kind of only got back into, or really discovered competitive for the first time over the pandemic. So to me, the big names are the ones who've been doing it for years and years and years. And so, like, for example, at EUIC this year, I was mainly paired with Ben Kiriakou, who's 2-time national champion, who's been playing since 2012 or maybe even earlier than that. But we kind of, you've got to complement each other. And casting, also, you've got play-by-play and you've got colour, and I'm the more play-by-play, bringing the hype and the energy and, you know, breaking things down for maybe newer players. And then Ben's there providing that in-depth analysis, so to speak. In terms of, you know, whether I'd reach those lofty heights, my battle strategy tends to be like, there is no plan B. I am going to click Dragon Energy and everything's going to faint. And if not, then I lose, sort of thing.
Sure.
That's a good strategy.
It's certainly the most fun. And it obviously is crucial to have fun while playing these games. You've got, I experiment with all kinds of play styles, of course. But yeah, I mean, who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
No, that'd be fun, man. That'd be fun.
And I think that's important to like kind of, you know, bring your own play style. Like when I entered 2 regionals last year, one was Charlotte and the next one was Orlando. And at Charlotte, I kind of brought and it was certainly like I had some help with Scoot Easy to kind of customize like things and stuff. But I was trying to bring a team I was like comfortable with and kind of liked. Whereas then the second time I went in Orlando, I brought a team that like was just objectively like, this is the strategy that's mainstreaming right now. And I did better with the first team than I did the second team because I was just more comfortable with it.
Exactly. It's all about having fun. I tell you, I played the Stuttgart Regional Championships in December, and I was struggling for a team. I decided eventually just to go with the team that had won the most recent tournament. Part of me in the run-up to the tournament was like, oh, do I run my favorite Pokemon Kingdra just because it's fun? Let's have fun here.
There's a good set. Wait, what's your set?
Well, I wasn't even thinking about a set because I decided, no, I'll just go with the winning team. And then a couple of weeks later, who goes and wins the Toronto Regional Championships with Kingdra?
No way.
That's right. Wolf Glick.
No way.
Like, I was on the source.
What? Oh my gosh.
No one believed me, and I didn't even believe it myself.
You were right there at the cusp, right?
That's amazing.
I hasten to add that I would have performed much worse with a Kingdra than Wolf did. And so, you know, he's using his classic Perish Trap strategy, but yeah.
Right.
Is that okay? What's the Kingdra strategy? Because my Kingdra is, I think I use, what is it? There's an item that increases critical hit ratio, and then I use focus energy, and then you just get the Draco Meteor just doing work. Yeah, was it Sniper?
Well,
okay.
What you can do now as well is you have your ally Pokemon use Dragon Cheer, and that boosts the critical hit ratio by 2 stages of Dragon types. This is only for doubles, obviously. So I don't even have to spend a turn using focus energy. Your partner can go for the Dragon Cheer and then
that's big.
Just hit like a truck. And I did do that in one of the global challenges, and it was fun when Draco Meteor hit.
Yeah.
But for Wolf, it was the Kingdra was all in on. It was regulations at H, so the power level was a bit lower.
Yeah.
Kingdra was all in on damage. It was Terra Stella. I think it was Draco Meteor, Muddy Water, probably. Might have been Life Orb. I might be misremembering that. But anyway, the idea was with Perish Trap, you want to clear through Pokemon very quickly so that then you kind of auto win because you have more Pokemon available, so you can use a Perish Song strategy and switch Pokemon in and out and stuff.
Yeah. Man, there's just, I don't know. It's funny how many more questions I have after the presents. You know, we went a year with just wondering what ZA could become. And then Champions is just like confusing the heck out of me. What were you gonna say, Lumi?
I was just gonna tell you, Dusty, since you were interested, I have his Kingdra set here, like not the EVs and IVs, but it was Protect, Draco Meteor, Weather Ball, and Muddy Water. It was next to, like, he had Politoed on his team to set up Rain. He, of course, had Perish Song on the Politoed because Wolf is, like, you know, the king of Perish Trap. And it had Swift Swim instead of Sniper, which I think, like, that's really kind of fun.
Yeah.
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 It's a good Pokemon. It's a good Pokemon.
It used to see a lot of competitive play, but less so now. Mega Kingdra Legends ZA. Let's
come on, yeah. Tell us that. That'll be
Fingers crossed.
That'll be a good clip. What megas do you want to see in Legends ZA? What's on your like top 5?
Well, that's one of them. Megaledian is another one, like I said.
Okay.
So that's an easy 2. The 3, it would be really cool to see a Mega Porygon Z. I think.
Dude, yeah.
Ooh.
Like, Porygon Z is already, like, glitched out, but what if they really went to town on that? If you just had pixels going all over the place and it was...
Nice.
I think that could be fun. What else could be fun? Mega, yes, for the memes, but also just feels like... And lean into the Dragonfly thing, make it Bug Dragon. Give us finally a Bug Dragon, I would say, for Mega.
Crazy we still don't have that type.
Yeah. I'd love to see a powerhouse Pokemon in maybe Generation 10 or a future one, which is Bug Dragon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mega, I love that you said that, too, because I don't know how accurate this is, but I saw someone on Twitter the other day say that Yanmega's Japanese name basically translates to Mega Yanma. So then a Mega Yanmega would be Mega Yanma.
Yeah.
No one's made the joke yet about Mega Meganium. You got Mega Neum.
I was gonna say we already might be getting that. So who knows?
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. My theory on that is that, like with Legends Arceus, we actually have regional variants of them.
Cool.
But then, in the same way that in X and Y you're gifted the Kanto first partners, maybe we're gifted the Kalos ones and then they can Mega Evolve. That's probably my theory on that one.
I hope so.
That would feel right. Yeah, because they've put so much emphasis on Megas, I'm starting to believe that they would want to subvert us or subvert our expectations by giving us Mega starters rather than regional forms, which is something that we associate with Legends Arceus. But so much of this game is already so different from Arceus. That's kind of where I'm coming on.
Yeah.
But I'd be happy with either. I actually think I'd rather regional forms.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel like they'd rather regional forms because, like, I think it was Infamous Trainer was talking to Soul about it on Twitter, and he was like saying, well, see, the thing with Mega Evolutions is like, if Gen 10 rolls around and Mega Evolutions aren't in Gen 10, Meganium's still kind of not the best mon, but if it gets a regional form and that makes it better, then, that continues to exist.
Charlie, what do you think? Please go.
I was just going to say quickly that another thing with Legends Arceus is obviously it's in Hisui, but ZA seems to be just being Kalos. So it would be just Colosseum, but my prediction would be Colosseum Megadium would be Grass Fairy, Colosseum Feraligatr, Water Dragon, and then Colosseum Emboar, I don't know. It would be cool if it was Fire Steel, because Dragon Fairy Steel is seen as a bit of a competitive
yes,
a bit like Fire Water Grass. I'm not sure if they do that. I'm less sure on the Emboar, but I just feel like Water Dark seems quite easy for Alligator, and they also did that with Hisui and Samurott. So I feel like, in my mind, especially because Meganium becoming Grass Fairy seems fairly likely.
Yeah,
Dragon for Alligator seems like a pretty viable option.
I could see.
Yeah, I think it could be. I also feel like,
I hope,
like you said, Water Dark, they just did Hisui and Samurai, and then also it's in the same region as Greninja. So I would hope that it's not Water Dark, but maybe it will be.
Some people have said water fighting as well, but I just feel like Quaquaval has been a bit too recent for that to be.
Yeah, you can't duplicate the types.
Yeah, maybe not. And then I know some people have been saying we're not going to get new megas, but to me that seems I could be wrong,
criminal.
But it seems like they would just be missing such a trick if they didn't introduce new megas in their day. At least like a couple, a little Primal Xerneas or something, just some kind of
dude, I love that you just said that Primal Xerneas. You know what's happening? I see you on official Pokemon like live streams and at events, and like you're representing them. So when you say a cool idea, I'm like, oh, Charlie knows something. I'm like, Charlie. They told Charlie something, and he's giving us a little hint. I know that's not how it works, but
I was gonna say.
Maybe it's just me hoping that I'm wishing these things into existence. Maybe the more I talk about Mega Kingdra, the more likely.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm with you.
I mean, it all sounds.
Masuda's sitting back in his chair listening, going, "Charlie, that is a great idea."
Great idea.
It all sounds good to me because I agree with all your picks. Like I want everything that you're saying. So keep it coming.
But you seem to be a big bug type guy. You got the Ledian and the Yamaga in your list.
It's true, and I've got the Mega plush right here actually.
Okay,
dude, nice.
My favorite type overall actually is Ice, but I think Bug is my second favorite because again, like I said with Ledian, I kind of want to. This might have been before we started recording, but I want to champion those types that aren't seen as to be as strong. Ice is more viable now with the snow mechanic, but previously it was very much just glass cannon type, and it still is, but you rarely see it used quite as much as we do now with like Chiem and so on.
It's funny because Ice has always seemed very legendary in a playthrough, right? Like I have,
exactly.
Like I'm playing Leaf Green right now, and I mean I am using Articuno, the Ice legendary, but I still think the type feels very powerful. But you're right; they're never competitively viable just because of how frail they are.
Tell you what, on that point, the Birmingham Regional Championships last month, I organised this. Taking over from the North America region, I organised an 8192 Shiny Challenge. So, how many shiny Pokemon can we find in 1 hour on the original games where the odds are 1 in 8192, generations 2 to 5? That was an idea of Nora in the Futures over in the NA region, then Quick Panic has done a few over there too. I was casting EYC, so I couldn't do it, so I asked my friend Shmon if he would host it, and in that challenge, one shiny was found, like 10,000 encounter total. I think 38 people came, it was really cool. But that shiny was Articuno in general.
Wow.
Wow. Okay.
You know, I think I saw that online. I think I did see that. I think I saw the tweet. That's awesome, dude. That's powerful.
Amazing find.
It's a subtle shiny, but it's good.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's a really cool one,
No, that's awesome.
On the subject of Ice types and like them being more competitive, one thing that I've heard, but I don't know if it's just the sphere that I've tapped into with the VGC community, so I don't know if it's like the overall thought, is that like I've seen a lot of people say that they would prefer Freeze be removed from the game and Frostbite from Legends Arceus kind of taking its place. What are your thoughts on that?
Interesting. If I'm remembering correctly, Frostbite is like at the end of each turn, a bit of your health is taken away. Is that right?
And I think it was also like Burn, where it cuts the attack, but it cut the special attack. I think.
Ooh, right. Okay. That is cool. The thing is, it's that ever difficult line to tread of competitive satisfaction versus this is family fun game.
Yeah,
and the Freeze status condition very much leans into the latter, right? It could happen at any time. The moves that have a chance to freeze, it's very slight, but if it does, then you're anything capable. I think, though, I would want to see Freeze kept, partly also just because been playing since Generation 1. It's kind of iconic in my eyes.
It's like the blue shell of Pokemon.
Yeah. But maybe have it a bit more like the sleep condition. So it's only going to last a maximum of 3 turns, for example. Something more like that. Because, I do think it's 50-50 every turn, whether you Thor or not. Maybe a bit much. I think they could... I want to see Freeze stay, but just temper the conditions around it a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard, like, all these horror stories of people who have, like, been so close to top cutting or so close to making day 2 or whatever it is, but then like something froze on their team and they went through like 7 turns of freeze and
yeah, it is brutal. It's fun to cast, I'll tell you that much, but it is
I'm sure.
Yeah. I was watching Wolf Glick made a video about champions, I think when that got revealed, And the point that he made, I kind of just heard echoed in what you just said, and it's been something that we've been thinking about. And it really is that, like, you know, there's two major audiences when it comes to the battles for Pokemon games, and it is that competitive. It's the competitive, people. It's the people who like actually want to play the game competitively. But then there also is like you just want to make a game that's like actually fun to play on your couch, right? For whoever picks it up. And I think that is kind of like that's been actually, I think, hurting. Maybe not hurting the brand or anything, but I do think it kind of is just like there's been some growing pains maybe, right? As the games have gotten more and more successful, they've reached a wider audience on Switch. The last decade has been great for the brand. But I think like competitive people want more competitive things. And I think the casual people like are maybe not having as much fun with some of the like the battle gimmicks or the battle mechanics, whatever we're calling them. And I think... yeah, it makes me wonder about what they would want to do in the future. I feel like Legends is kind of a bid for, you know, that single player experience, right? It's an appeal to the single player experience and those types of players. And I think Champions opens the gate for, you know, the like it's a way for them to house all of the gimmicks. I'm thinking about, I guess, I guess I'm thinking about just like, will Megas, you know, is that something that we could see in Generation 10, right? I'm thinking about the Generation 10 game. Like, really, what is that going to be, you know? And what kind of gimmicks will return to that?
The first thing to say on that point is that, yeah, I think this paves the way for Champions, that divide potentially between the way people enjoy playing the competitive in the main series games versus VGC. Generation 10, of course, in the trailer for Pokemon Champions, we saw terrestrialization and we saw Mega. One of the most hilarious things I find incidentally about that is we saw a Terra Water Dondozo, right? And it's blasting water at a Mega Charizard X, which is part fire type. And you've got the water and you've got the fire. And they meet in the middle as if it's like this impasse. You don't know what's going on. Obviously, the water is going to completely wipe out the fight.
But it's so iconic. Blastoise and Charizard. That's what it's giving.
True. And you're right. Actually, it's Generation 1 Pokemon versus one of the most recent in Generation 9. But I think I'm really not sure where I stand on this this mechanic, or what the mechanic of Generation 10 will be front. I think with Champions, so we have Mega and Terrestrialization both in that trailer, suggests to me that, and again, this kind of lends to my idea of Generation of Worlds next year, 2026, being Scarlet and Violet, but with ZA Pokemon and maybe Megas and Terrestrialization, because we saw both of them in the trailer for Champions. In terms of what Generation 10 does, this is what I would like. I don't necessarily think this will happen. I would like Generation 10 to be a celebration of Pokemon up to this point. For that reason, I would like, maybe this is more likely, but I would like to see every single Pokemon available again in some capacity. The entire Pokedex. Bring back Gotta Catch 'em all for Generation 10 of all things. Especially because, you know, we've got this thing in Scarlet and Violet of like, it seems like Kalos is neighboring Paldea. You've got Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant looking like Mega Salamence and Mega Gallade. And so the connectivity of the Pokemon world, that'll be another cool thing I'd like to see in Generation 10, maybe hopping across, seeing how these regions connect across the world. And in terms of the competitive and the mechanic side of things, for that reason, just developing that lore, I would want to see the mechanics we've seen all return in some capacity. We don't want it to get too confusing. You can only either Dynamax, Z-Move, Terra, or Mega in one battle, one per Pokemon sort of thing. I don't know.
But you still have that option.
But for that reason, maybe we don't have a new mechanic in Generation 2, or if there is, it's just like a very slight addition. Like you could Mega Terra or whatever. And then Generation 11... I would want to see a bit like what they did with Generation 5, like a soft reset of the franchise. So up until you beat the Elite Four, only brand new Pokemon can be found, and then we have a new mechanic and stuff. But it feels like, to me, Generation 10 should be like the end of one chapter, almost, the end of one era for Pokemon before we... And for that reason, like, reflecting back rather than looking too much forward.
I love that. No, I love that. I often look at Generation... 7, right? The Sun and Moon games, right? In Alola for the 20th year anniversary. And I feel like there was so much celebration just embedded in the core of those games. Not only the Pokemon designs, but the stories, the I guess like the
returning characters,
the
like
messaging,
returning and blue.
Yep. Regional forms in general are like a callback, right?
Yeah.
And so I wonder how many of those things will, or if they even will, kind of be called back on, right? If the 30th year anniversary game is going to be, I'm sure it is going to be filled with nostalgia. But I also wonder, what if they just go, no, listen, Gen 10 is the future. We're doing something different, right? There's so many ways they could do this. So
sure. I'd hope, like what Charlie said, I'd hope for like a bookend to what we've had before. Because I that was one thing I adored about Sun and Moon was all those returning characters. I mean, Looker and like some of them were so random too. Like Annabelle, like that's not even like a popular character, but she's here too. That's awesome. So I would want that before we get the reset. And I love what you're saying about the potentially like the idea of having all the gimmicks in the game, because I think that makes the format fresh too, where they can go, okay, well, Reg A, you can only use Mega Evolution and Z moves. Reg B, you can now use Dynamax or Terrastal, and like a way to kind of play around with it and do all these different formats. Kind of like what you were saying earlier about like the idea of just branching out to different things where every Pokemon, Ledian has a chance to shine somewhere,
Yeah, I think my one reservation with what I said about that is, for new players, pretty overwhelming potentially to have to sort of get through it with 4 different mechanics. But it would just seem wrong to me that there's, especially with Mega and Terra being such a thing right now. Maybe it is just like a last hurrah for them before we have something new in Generation 10, but also just because Terastallization has been such a hit with so many people.
Yeah.
And if anything, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but it feels to me like Terastallization sort of has been around for a lot longer than it actually has. I sort of look at Terra and think, oh yeah, that's something you've been always to do in Pokemon. You've been always able to do in Pokemon, sort of thing. It just feels like the thing that was missing and we never knew that was missing all along.
Yeah.
Sort of you change up a type.
It might be it might be just the nature of what Terra does mechanically that is maybe more familiar, because we've always had Pokemon that change forms, get a new type. Pokemon evolve, they get a new type, right? Even when they Mega, when they get a new Gigantamax, they get a new type, potentially, right? Like that
not
change.
G-Max.
Sure, but like getting a new type is really, I feel like, essential. It's tied with the identity of what a Pokemon is. It's evolution. So I think versus growing really big or using a supercharged move, like those are just extreme versions of one thing. But the Terra seems like the actual effect is pretty simple, but it's the execution that makes it like really powerful in a competitive format.
And they always too, like they've always kind of teased like type based things, you know what I mean? Like the thing that was so exciting about regional variants was us going, okay, this fire type Vulpix is now an ice type, like the polar opposite of what it used to be. And like Charizard gets the dragon type now. Z-moves were like all these just ultra powered this type move. And I think like, I don't know, I think like you said, Charlie, it's a natural progression. Like to do Terrastal, it feels like the right thing, and I don't even know like what they can do next. Like I feel like people were talking about before. I can't even like. I'm sure. I'm sure Game Freak can think of it.
I'm sure Dusty can think of it.
No, I got a couple.
You can think of it, Dusty.
Like the one that I think about is like the armor Pokemon from the first Mewtwo movie. Like you could have, and I guess everything. Megas is kind of a little bit of everything, right? Megas.
So you've got the idea, but what is the mechanic that you're proposing?
The mechanic could be anything. I guess armor Pokemon, right? You could think of a thing where it's like instead of a Mega Stone that buffs a bunch of random stats, it's like maybe you have there's maybe 5 or 6 items, and depending on which one you give your Pokemon, it could give 100 in just speed or 100 in just special defense. That's probably
like a choice.
That's probably broken. Yeah, exactly. Like I think a lot of things that they introduce are extensions of previous ideas or designs, right? Like we get a new move and it's like, oh, this is the water version of this other move, right? Or this is the sand, like what is it? Searing Sands is like Scald, but it's just
Scorching
for the ground.
Sands, do the burn.
So I think that's how I would think about it.
Yeah, and that raises an interesting question about how kind of tying in with something we were saying before about how competitively focused do we want these items and new moves in Generation 10 to be? Because I think the concept of explaining, I mean, I guess you could just say to new players, you get faster if you use an item like what
that
you
seems simple.
there, Dusty.
Sure.
Which, true, you can break it down like that. But it's finding a mechanic, I think, I would guess, that sort of caters to both audiences of like, it's fun and it's not too difficult to understand, but it also does change the tides of battle. And in my mind, Terra is sort of quintessential version of that.
You press this button, you become fire type. You press this button, you become a dragon. It's pretty simple to communicate that.
I feel like they've wanted to do it for a while too, because like I don't even remember what generation it was, but like Soak has been a move that's been around for forever, and that's like changing your type to water. They have like some abilities like Protean and Camouflage that allow a type change. Or Camouflage is a move.
Wasn't Bolton's signature move from Generation 8? It was Electrify or something, right? Which was like Soak, but for electric types. I might be misremembering that.
I can look it up.
Bolton, we haven't seen for a hot minute.
That might be right. I'm not much of a Bolton player.
No, not too many people use it. So.
I'm not even sure I ever caught one, if I'm honest.
Man. But no, you're right. And Soak is such a fun move for sure.
It says no, it's got competitive and it's got strong jaw.
No, the
oh no,
move,
it's a move though. It's a move.
Oh, the move. Yeah, Electrify. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and like you've got like Forest Curse on Trevenant, Trick or Treat on Gorgeist.
Sure. Yes. That's totally true. Yeah. I mean, that's true. And you can even become typeless. Listen, the biggest missed opportunity for me, we were talking about this earlier this week, is like I wish the Stellar type was actually a type that had resistances and weaknesses and strengths. Again, I wish it had a relationship to other types, and I wish Terapagos was the only Pokemon with that specific type. But again, everything could become the Stellar type through terastallization. I feel like that was a missed opportunity. To give us a true type.
It's another question about Generation 10 if we'll get any new types or not. I think the thing is, with any time they've introduced new types, it's been to react against something that's happened before, right? So Dark balanced out the Psychic type, and Fairy balanced out the Dragon type. So it's just to what extent they see the type chart as complete now. It's totally balanced, sort of.
Is there anything that's running amok? They could also add something that's maybe not to balance, but maybe just to... Because there are types... Maybe if there aren't types that are overpowered now, there definitely are types that are underpowered now. So if they introduced a new type, that could give other types, some more juice, right, to compete.
I'm surprised, for example, that Fairy resists bug. Like, throw the bug the bone here. Come on.
Pokemon hates the bug type, it feels like.
They hate us. They hate us.
I mean, again, we are the strongest soldiers for the bug types right here.
Yeah.
But, I think there's that, and there's also, it's things like, I guess it's never going to be entirely perfect, right? It's still, nowadays, Dark and Ghost is not resisted by Steel, but in my mind, like, Psychic should definitely not be resisted by Steel, because it's all about the mind. It doesn't matter how tough your body is, it's all about the mental aspect. But again, you've got to keep it balanced somehow. I was personally shocked that we didn't see a reveal of a flying type EV evolution on Pokemon Day, just because it had been teased so strongly. And it makes me wonder if at this point...
It was teased.
They do it deliberately. It's like they make the iconography so suggestive of that. Just in order to go, ha! We led you down the garden path.
Dude, it would be so good. I think we're also, like, again, I expect the unexpected, right? Anytime someone could say, like, oh, no, we're never going to get a new Eeveelution in a side Legends game because that's never been happened before. It's like, okay, well, that's a reason why they could do it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think the flying type fits, and, I don't know. Maybe
the flip side of that, though, is like
we could still see it.
We don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, we were talking about Johto games. At the end of the day, they could drop a Johto game.
Literally.
Look at in this trailer, we're all, like, kind of predicting that after Legends ZA will be Gen 10, and I feel like I'm not Pokemon, but if I were, and someone designed like a flying type Eevee or something for Legends ZA, I would be like, you know what, shelf that. We have our 30th anniversary game next year.
Sure.
Let's do it then, because it's going to be like a huge thing,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I mean, another thing to say on that point is that often at the World Championships every year, we get little teasers about what's coming up in the next year, like a mini Pokemon present, a mini Pokemon Day. And so that also lends credence to the belief that what if they, and it would kind of make sense if they tease Gen 10 for the first time at Worlds this year. And that could then lend credence to the belief that Gen 10 could drop on Pokemon Day next year, for example.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. Wait, pause. Don't you think, though, I guess the only thing I would say against that is, like, don't you think that could overshadow the sales of Legends EA?
That's true. Well,
I guess we don't know when it's coming out, right? Because what if
Legends EA Shining Pearl was November and then Legends Arceus came out a couple of months later?
Yeah, we're always talking about how like Legends Arceus got kind of snubbed by the reveal of Scarlet and Violet a month later. You know,
right?
So we were just thinking about
they
that.
They are two different games, I think. You know, like because especially like Legends Arceus, the Agile Strong style, it was still a turn-based, like it was still a turn-based game. This is unrecognizable to what we've seen in Pokemon before, you know. So I feel like it'd be easier to market the Gen 10 game, assuming it's more like a traditional Pokemon game.
Yeah.
Alongside this, because they look totally separate. Where it's like the Legends Arceus style does still feel very in line with what we had seen before. It's still like turn-based. You just now can kind of gimmick around losing a turn or gaining a turn.
Yeah.
I think it's also, though, in terms of the overshadowing thing, Worlds is August. Assumedly, ZA is coming out in November this year. It's a good few months for people to, have their excitement about Gen 10, but then put it to one side for ZA to come out. And I think, I see what you're saying about Legends Arceus, but then they tease Scarlet and Violet a month later on Pokemon
Listen, they could do it.
But fundamentally, what are people going to do with that? It's like, oh, Scarlet and Violet's coming. Well, I'm not going to play this game anymore. I'm going to sit and
right.
That's a good point. And they're for different people. Like, I do feel like this game is for a different type of player. So if that player is going to, like, if they're not going to buy the main series game, they'll buy this regardless.
I feel like they know that too. Like, I think it was about like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee or something, but I feel like there was some point where someone at Nintendo or Game Freak compared it to like the Mario series, how like they're like, Odyssey doesn't take the place of like your classic side scroller Mario game. There's these 3D Mario games like Odyssey, Galaxy and stuff, and then there's like your traditional Mario game. So it's like, why can't Pokemon do the same thing where you've got your traditional Pokemon game and then you have your Legend series or Let's Go series, your experimental series?
Yeah,
that seems what they're going for.
Isn't it just so exciting that we're in a position now where Pokemon can do that? They can pretty similar, but still a little bit different. And that'd be fine. It'd be greenlit, and everyone still enjoy the game. I think it's a really exciting.
I try to remind people all the time. We are so we are so grateful or spoiled, right, to have our favorite franchise putting out a game more than once a year sometimes. It's so great. And
definitely spoiled.
Some people say they're low quality. I think they're fun, so that's all I care about, right? I mean, definitely Scarlet and Violet is, I don't know if we're allowed to say this, but I think it's technically maybe not the best performing game. Can I say that? Is that fine to say?
I think that would make sense. I mean, I'm like you. I love the gameplay.
Yeah.
There were some things to be ironed out.
I've been playing it all week.
But they were really fun games.
Yeah, I play it all the time. But yeah, my point is, it's great. Yeah, we're going to get multiple games. I think it'd be really great and cool to play the 30th year anniversary game, the Gen 10 game, throughout the year of the 30th year anniversary. And then they could fill the year. Like, so if we, like, kind of going off what you're saying, if we get the Gen 10 game
earlier.
Yeah, earlier, like in February or whatever. Or whenever, right? Like to be able to play it and like there's like ongoing events. Maybe there's like I remember during the 20th year anniversary there was like or maybe it was the 25th. There was the year of the legendary, right? The year of the mythical, where they have all these giveaways. Imagine having the new game and they're giving all these like giveaways every single month throughout the 30th year anniversary.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That'd be something. I think also I think I'm right in saying I'm pretty sure this was the case with Scarlet and Violet. I don't know if it's the case always.
Yeah,
might have been for Legends Arceus too. But Pokemon games tend to drop on a Friday, and Pokemon Day next year is a Friday. Just saying. I don't think though. I still personally believe that Generation 10 won't drop on Pokemon Day. Worlds next year will be Scarlet and Violet with ZA, as I said. But yeah, I mean, all these things. It's fun to think about.
It is a fun thought. I mean, because, what is Pokemon Day? It's the release of the first Pokemon game. So how cool to kind of honor that by being and we're doing it again, But it is also the fact is they sell so well in November because it's right before Christmas time. Right. Everybody's shopping and all this. So
you're talking about bookends. That would be a very nice bookend.
That would be a nice bookend.
It would come out on Pokemon Day.
So then also, we're greedy Pokemon fans who, just want more and more of the game.
Listen, I do. Charlie, on the screen right now, I've got a screenshot of the new Z8 trailer, and this is an image I keep going back to. It's Hippowdon on the roof. Aside from the meme of a Hippowdon on the roof,
waking up the residents.
Other than the meme, it's fighting the Talonflame, and it throws up these stealth rocks, and Talonflame goes to attack Hippowdon, but gets stopped by one of the stealth rocks. When I think about this game, it's so easy or so much fun to imagine and to reimagine how each of these existing moves that we know about could be reinterpreted in this game. And what I've been thinking about all week in lead up to this interview is like, from your perspective as a caster for the Pokemon Company International, like, do you think this would be more fun? Would this be more difficult to cast? Like, because it's not a turn-based thing, it's actually it's more closely related to like a sports game or something where you have to kind of be on it, right? In a different way maybe. But that's my understanding. What do you think about all this?
Yeah, it's certainly more like a traditional esport and a bit more like Pokemon Unite. Frankly, it would kind of require a different totally different mode of casting. I think, I was saying before how you've got play-by-play and you've got color. The reason that works these days is because currently in VGC, you've got the moves playing out, and that tends to be when the play-by-play caster is talking, saying, and I was going right into the Goodra or whatever. But then you've got the time when the players are locking in their moves, and that's time for the color caster to come in and provide the analysis of what just happened, what might happen in this next turn, what are these players considering right now. And so with this stuff, it kind of, there's still an analytical element to it, but it's far more in the moment. This is so exciting. This is happening right now. Pyro just went for that fire type move, but it dodged, but it's going to be hit right by this rock slide coming out from the Onyx sort of thing.
Okay.
And it provides a bit more like Pokemon Go, actually, a lot less time for
the analysis.
The analysis, really, the deep dive into the analysis would happen after the game, where it's like, if we look at this moment where this happened, what could have happened is X, Y, Z, but there's definitely not enough time to do that in the heat of the battle as it is. So yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah,
we get our slow motion replays.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
And of course, there's no promise that this is even going to be an official format, but it's just I think it really is just a signal to me that like anything could happen in the future. Charlie, before we wrap up, you know what? I don't think we've kind of retired an old thing, but I don't want to retire it. In the spirit of you on your show, like I was on your show, Chazingdra Chats on your podcast a couple weeks ago, and you asked me in a much more long-winded way what my favorite 6 Pokemon would be, right? My dream team. Okay. And we usually ask guests what their dream team is, so I'd love to hear what your dream team is.
Okay. Now, this is really interesting because...
and it can't be a 2-hour-long podcast response. It has to be...
Sure. Something I've had in mind for a while now is that maybe for some anniversary of my own show, I will have someone else interview me. And
okay.
Through my life story and my dream team. So I might not give you the entire dream team.
That's fine.
I can give you like, I don't know, I could either give you a couple of members or I could take a deeper dive into why my favorites are my favorites. I mean, how do you want to?
This is like a rapid fire, just so our audience can get to know you a little bit. I think we relate to each other through our Pokemon picks, our favorite Pokemon. So if you throw out some of those, people will.
I'll talk to you about 2 of the Pokemon that I've mentioned already in this episode and why I like them so much. So, Kingdra is my favorite Pokemon. That's partly because it represents Generation 2, and that is my favorite. It's partly because it evolves from a Generation 1 Pokemon, and that is technically where I started. I think Water Dragon is such a cool combination. It's partly the mystique of it because you had to trade with the Dragon Scale. For ages, I thought it was the King's Rock. It's Kingdra. So
wow, that's a good point.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I could see that being like maybe that was originally how it was conceptualized, and then they changed.
Maybe because why does Poliwhirl evolve with it? Honestly,
yes,
right, yeah, maybe. But also the Dragon Scale you can only get from Mount Mortar, which you don't even ever have to go in when you're playing through Pokemon Gold, Silver, or Gold, Soul, Silver. It's just a little side quest. Also, I didn't really have too many people I could trade with when I was younger, so I could never actually have a Kingdra. So there was that element to it as well. I love seahorses. All of these things, basically. I think for a lot of people, their favorite Pokemon is very much like just a gut instinct thing. And for me, it is that, but it's also like there's all these other things represented. But then in terms of Ledian, Silver was the version I had. Ledibur is exclusive to that. It appears only in the mornings, and I love the time of day mechanic in Gold and Silver. And yeah, as I said, I just think it's underrated. It is a little bit underpowered. And so
Who
I
cares?
just want to
It's a good design
for it. And also, I did a playthrough of Soul Silver a couple of years ago, and I just have fond memories of the following sprite of Ledian behind me. It's just a happy, upbeat little guy just there supporting you. So,
That's really good.
It's such a good one.
All right, well, I guess we'll have to wait for that. You said you're doing that episode soon. Where you review your top 6?
So, first of all, your episode, Dusty, of Chazingdra Chats, we're aiming to drop those on the same day. So,
I think Wednesday, right? You should be watching this on a Wednesday.
26th of March, and get to know Dusty's life story in 6 Dream Team Pokemon. But in terms of that episode, I don't know. Maybe some kind of anniversary. It might be a bit in the future, but at some point.
Did you already? Think, what was it like talking to Wolf?
Oh, yeah, I did record with Wolf earlier this week. That's for the 50th episode. So that's going to be going out next week, actually.
Yeah.
At the time you're listening to this, so the first week of April. I normally drop episodes on Wednesdays, but that Wednesday is going to be the reveal of more information about the Switch 2. So I was like, okay.
Sure.
Delay this 50th episode. I'm thinking about probably the Friday, the 4th of April, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But it was great. We had a really good... we had a really good chat. I was hosting EUIC last year, so I interviewed him on stage then, but it was only this year at EUIC where I actually got to talk to him a little bit more. And we just had a really good laugh. And again, everyone hears so much about Wolf, but you don't really get to know him as a person. So I'm looking forward to shining light on that. It feels like a perfect 50th episode.
No, that's really good. I'm looking forward to watching that episode with Wolf.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
I honestly, we're gonna have to end, but this has been such a pleasure. Do you guys have any other questions before we hop off?
Oh,
let me pull up your channel, Charlie.
I would say I checked out your Twitter before this, and I just laughed a lot. So I love the content that you're making. I love the jokes. I love that you did that stuff like as a caster, like making the jokes. I love it. You should keep it up.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah, I think, as I said, I like to lean into my background as an actor, writer, comedian, and I did come up with some bad joke style Pokemon flavored things, and did a supercut of all of those. It's just welcoming back the trainers rather than saying welcome back everyone. We're at EUIC. Let's just have a bit more fun with it. I think what people connect with when they're watching something on camera is just something real. They don't want to see something too polished. They immediately you just feel a bit like with a chat like this. We're just a few people hanging out having a chat. It's not like a newsroom where I'm telling you in a very formal way what's happening right now. And so that's very much the kind of energy I want to bring to the desk. I'm aware that we actually didn't get on to talking about Pokemon Champions too much.
We talked about it in the beginning. This is what we do on Hidden Power. We bounce around.
Yeah, that's true. I think if I wrap up just quickly with my thoughts on that, I think I was saying to the other guys, Dusty, just while you popped out before we started recording, that I last night watched the episode that you did a couple of weeks ago before Pokemon Day, where you were saying, wouldn't it be crazy if there was some kind of battle simulator revealed on Pokemon Day?
I think Toby said that, right?
Fun to see. Exactly, yeah, Lord Keeper Toby.
Yeah.
But I think it's absolutely a step in the right direction for the franchise. You currently can't just pick up Pokemon game and do a battle. You have to build a team. I think that is the main gap that Pokemon Champions is looking to fill. All sorts of questions. There are still sort of all sorts of unanswered questions about what exactly the format will take. In my mind, the competitive format will shift over to that, because if you're playing Pokemon Champions, you'll bring out Pokemon Champions to make it more accessible, bring in a wider audience to play. How frustrating would it be if then you're enjoying that and you want to go to a tournament, but no, you have to buy the Gen 10 games to then go and compete in a tournament. So I feel like it will move over to Pokemon Champions.
But maybe not until Gen 11 or something.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
But essentially, it seems like, Pokemon competitive events are just getting bigger and bigger. And in order to keep up and make, as I say, just get in as many players as possible, show how much fun it can be, and to raise that profile even higher. Pokemon Champions is essentially vital right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna say earlier when we were talking about the gimmicks, I think that it is also for gimmicks. Like obviously this isn't confirmed, but it releases them from like fans always saying like bring back Mega Evolutions, bring back Gigantamax. It's like this is your game for gimmicks. Like if you want to use Mega Evolutions, here you go. You can use them now. If there's new Megas in Legends EA, then here you are. You can use your new Megas in this game now. I think that it really breaks all of that off as well.
I like
there
that.
Is
every generation is represented. Like generation of person.
There's a lot of space behind the characters and champions, and if I allowed myself to read too much into that, it reminds me of the Sword and Shield stadiums where, they'd return the Pokemon and then throw it behind them. There'd be this big Pokemon. Yeah. So I'm like, dude, could maybe we get Dynamax later? And then it's like, and at that point, throw in Z moves, even if it's like DLC down the road. The thought of having a hub for it all would be really cool.
That's crazy because I think you're absolutely right. These stadiums actually look like the stadiums in Galar.
Yeah, they give me like big Sword and Shield vibes. But I could be like just coping. Yeah.
I don't think so. I think the point of this trailer was to signal that obviously these two things will be in this, but like every Pokemon. All four of the Pokemon that are showcased here represent a different game, and I think the point is it's like maybe on launch it's only the most recent games, but I think eventually, it'd be a wasted opportunity to not incorporate other gimmicks, to not have even go back to Gen 5 and allow for triple battles as a format, right? To allow for singles, Gmax, Z moves. I think it's all going to be present. Sky battles, maybe. I don't know.
I think you're probably right. It just raises an interesting question of like up to this point, it's been, and understandably so, you have to have the new games in order to compete because they want to keep updating things.
Yeah,
they want to push people towards buying the new games, and that's totally understandable.
Totally.
But I think in order to have the broad appeal, and especially because it would appeal to the nostalgia, right? There will be some people who just like, no, I want to battle with only the original 151.
Yeah,
I don't want any of these gimmicks. I don't want any abilities. I don't want any items. I just want to lock in my moves and do it more simply like that. You certainly would get a lot of people involved, and then maybe it's just for the competitive battles that you have to use the new mechanics. And also, that could suggest, again, with Generation 10, if we have an amalgamation of all the mechanics like we were saying before, Champions is a good gateway into that, right? You have the opportunity to practice just Mega Battles, just Terra Battles, etc. And then Generation 10, you can put them all together, maybe.
Yeah. Charlie, my dream game, or for Champions, right? Like we're playing, if Champions plays out the way I would hope, it would be where there are certain modes where if you're playing the Gen 4 format, you're literally playing the game and it looks like you're battling in Platinum or something. So you have, I want to see Game Freak. This is a Game Freak game. This isn't, they're not outsourcing. It's Game Freak. They have the property. They have the access. I would love to see them reuse the Sprite assets, right? To reuse, if I'm playing Gen 5. I want it to look like it's Gen 5, right? I mean, I feel like it would actually be easier for them. They don't need to remake anything. All that stuff already exists, and I'm sure they could.
Yeah, but put it in like a game that looks. Let's say it looks like the trailer, because I have my own thoughts on that. That's a whole other topic. Yeah. But let's say it looks like the trailer. How do they put like Gen 5 sprites in that? It would have to be like a whole different.
Yeah, it would be a whole different thing. What I'm saying is it'd be easy because you're not. I'm not saying take the moving Gen 5, Tepig sprite and put it into a 3D space.
In the stadium, right.
I'm saying like you can play this on your phone if I'm playing it on my phone, and it just looks like my DS screen for the battle mode, And the only thing that would have to change really is maybe the button controls or something, right? Because you don't have the touch screen.
I could see them giving you that option, maybe as like an extra bonus.
Totally extra.
Done everything else.
I'd even pay for it.
A bit like how in Heart Gold Soul Silver, where you can unlock the music from the Generation 2 game.
Sure,
absolutely.
You unlock the state. You can either play with it the funky modern graphics as you can see now, or you can go back and have that retro experience. I could see that happening, but
absolutely.
Having just the retro graphics, probably not. And I love that you mentioned the playing on your phone as well, because I think that, in my mind, is essentially the biggest drop from Pokemon Champions here. I have so many friends who, you know, they know what I do now and, you know, baffled by just how big Pokemon is these days. They played Pokemon when they were younger. Maybe they only played Generation 1 or they only played up to Generation 3 or whatever. But it being on mobile, I can see all of those people and many more besides just downloading it just because they want to have that little nostalgia hit again. Oh, what's Pokemon up to now? This is something that feels like I can get myself up to a level where Pokemon is now, but also if I want to, I can just play for all of the reasons why I loved Pokemon back in the day.
Absolutely.
A little bit like what Pokemon Go did, I feel like. Like, it got so many people back in it who were like, yeah, I haven't touched this game since 1998 when I was, you know, 5, but now...
TCG Pocket as well has had a really great, you know, 4 months of a launch, you know, and I've been playing the heck out of it because it's so convenient to just... It's like the biggest barrier to playing TCG has always been buying packs. But if I get 2 free packs a day, I literally open the app 2 times a day, and it's awesome. You know, something like Pokemon Champions.
Coming up with their mobile games is a genius, man. Like they know every market to tap into. Like the mobile games cover everything. There's too much to. There's a mobile game for brushing your teeth with Pokemon.
It's serious. I really think Champions is gonna change everything. I'm excited. And we haven't even done this yet, so we'll definitely do this on another episode. Yeah, and if you want, maybe you can join. But to really break down everything that we want to see in Champions. But Charlie, it's been a pleasure. This is the second time I've been able to record with you now. Definitely, everyone watching right now, go check out Charlie's channel, Chazingdra Chats. And
Dusty's on it right now.
That's your weekly podcast. Yeah, right now there's an episode with me.
It's a broad range of people in the community, so it's competitive as well as casual players, shiny hunters, and Dusty and others. I'm sure it's only a matter of
I'm my own category.
You guys on the podcast as well.
I'd love to. Sounds fun.
It's supposed to be like just discovering more about people from all walks of the community, just to show how the range is. But thank you so much for having me on the show. I've had
absolutely
the best. I don't even know how long we've been recording for, but it feels like just like 5 minutes. I've had the best time talking to you. And
listen, we can keep going.
Out about Pokemon is my favorite thing to do. So thanks so much for having me. It's been an absolute blast,
bro. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much
for being here.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much for watching. Go check out that other video on Charlie's channel. Link will be in the description. We'll see you guys very soon. Peace.
I've been catching up on some of the episodes you guys have been doing over the past few weeks just to get ready for this.
Oh, cool!
It's great to be here. I was watching last night the episode you did with Lawkeeper Toby a couple of weeks ago, where you're speculating about what if there's some kind of battle simulator announced on Pokemon Day.
Yeah.
What if? It was really strange to watch back with hindsight.
Yeah.
It's funny too because the whole time we're discussing it, I'm like, but it's not gonna happen. You know?
We've been like speculating on that for a long time, like for years. So that's why we were like, yeah, Toby, sure. it's never gonna happen. But he still held on.
So Lumi, you do a bit of competing yourself, I think Dusty said.
I haven't in the last year. The last time I competed was I'm trying to remember if it was Charlotte or Orlando last year in 24 was the last time I did. In fact, my wife always jokes that we've competed in 2 tournaments. It was Charlotte and Orlando, and she's like, I'm not saying we're Wolf's good luck charm, but he won Charlotte and then he won Orlando. So
that's true.
My wife's she always does better than me at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
She is pretty formidable. We did in our Discord, we had a battle tournament when Scarlet and Violet came out, and actually no, I don't think that actually was in our Discord. I think that was Lumi. That was
it was.
You had a tournament, right?
We didn't even have a Discord yet. I just organized it with 8 of us. There were just a couple friends doing it.
But I think I think she kicked my butt.
She did.
Yeah, I think no.
That's not confirmed.
No, that's not confirmed. We don't know that actually. The details are kind of hazy.
She in Charlotte, which was her first tournament ever. I had done some before, but Charlotte was her first tournament ever. She actually ended up, because it's 3 losses and you know, that you're like, basically you're not going to day 2.
Yeah.
And her third loss was to Aaron Traylor. And it was funny because she didn't even know that it was Aaron Traylor. And so like I went to like go meet her. I'd finished my match, so I went up to like go meet her, and she was like, I lost, and you know, Aaron's like, oh hey, I'm like, hey, and he walks away, and I was like, do you know who you lost to? And she's like, yeah, that guy, he's really nice. He's in school to like be a doctor. I'm like, Sarah, that was Aaron Traylor. And she's like, oh, because she knows names but not faces. She was like, that was Aaron Traylor. I was like, yeah, you just got kicked out of the tournament by Aaron Traylor.
It's kind of sick. It's like getting kicked. It's like getting your butt kicked by that trainer in the anime who had like the Darkrai in the or whatever in the. I think it was the Darkrai, right? In the Elite Four.
Tobias.
Yeah, Tobias. Yeah, it's kind of cool. You're like, wow, I'm part of history.
Yeah.
But I guess we can get going. But yeah. Thank you for here. Let me change this. Hold on.